Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience. I'm your host, Big Les. Make sure to click down below and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any great content. We're going to be going through and ranking every single position, our top 5 for each position going into 2025 season. Been a bit of backlash and a bit of confusion as to how this works and what I'm actually doing. For the top 5s, I'm going through and ranking who I think the top 5 centers will be, or the top 5 players in their position will be for the 2025 season. I'm not saying who are the top 5 in their position right now. I'm saying who will be the top 5 in their position, I guess, by the end or throughout the 2025 season. And I know that there's been a bit of backlash and a bit of confusion about that as well. There's also been a bit of backlash on the selections that I have, which is totally fine. And I want to hear that from you guys. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. But yeah, just to clear it up, it is my top 5 players for each position going into 2025 for that 2025 season. And by the end of the year. So for that 2025 season, without seeing any football, I'm predicting who I think are going to be the top 5 players for that season, not the top 5 players right now, if that makes sense. Let's get into it though. We're going through centers, if you couldn't already tell by clicking on the thumbnail. We are going through centers today. Going to be a real nice one to do as well. So really, I guess, you know, there's plenty of players to choose from here going into this year, with a lot of top 8 sides having really great centers. So it was really hard to narrow it down and to get a list. I know that there's going to be some backlash with whatever I pick for all of these anyway. So look, let's get straight into it. I'll tell you what, though, we have plenty of honourable mentions here. If you didn't know as well, if you haven't watched one of these videos before, we do our top 5. We also give our honourable mentions as to who we think could have been in this list or could be in this list by the end of the year as well, if they have a good enough season. So let's get into it. Number 5 for me, for top 5 centres for the 2025 season, I'm going to throw in there Bradman Best. Obviously, he's been that guy in Origin over the past 2 years where if there's injuries, he's the guy that comes in for Game 3 and has the big performance. I think that he's going to establish himself as one of the better centers in the competition, and he's really going to be putting pressure on guys like Latrell and Turbo for those centre spots for State of Origin, and he'll be definitely pushing for a spot in the squad, in my opinion. Really talented centre. He's got such great ability, great strength. He's really, really fast for his size and build. I'm really excited to see Bradman Best this year for the Newcastle Knights in a side that I think could struggle a bit this year, and probably one of my favourites for the Wooden Spoon, along with the Canberra Raiders this year, which I think is a little bit controversial in itself. But I think Bradman Best, I think he's in for a big year. I think that he's going to be one of those guys that stands up and has 100% effort there on that left edge for the Newcastle Knights. And I think by the end of the year, he will be one of the top 5 centres going into, or at the back end of, I should say, 2025. Number 4, this one was a 2-horse race for me. But then obviously rethinking it, I had to put Bradman Best in that top 5. Number 4, it is Campbell Graham. I did have Valentine Holmes in there just before we started recording, and then I backflipped because I realised that Campbell Graham's in the room, and I think that him coming back for South Sydney, especially defensively, they really missed him last year. Great defensive centre, probably one of the better defensive right centres in the competition, Campbell Graham. But not only that, just tough as nails. Work ethic is unbelievable, and he is such a talented footballer as well. His scoring ability. You should have seen how many tries he was scoring for South Sydney before he was injured, and the start of the year that he did have before obviously getting ruled out of Origin with that sternum injury, and then spending 500 days, I think it's been now, off the rugby league field. So I'm so keen to see Campbell Graham back. Just a few rumours around South Sydney as well. It sounds like, just from training, that Isaiah Tass is training on that right wing with Campbell Graham, and Tyrone Munro is actually on the left side for Alex Johnston, who's currently recovering from injury. So the left edge seems to be Jack White and Tyrone Munro, with the right edge being Isaiah Tass alongside Campbell Graham. So that was really interesting, something that I definitely didn't predict or pick up. I just don't rate Tass as a winger. I think that he's better as a centre. Great build for it. Really solid in attack. He's got some decent ball skills. But yeah, look, keen to see how he goes. Isaiah Tass there on the wing. But Campbell Graham, though, really like Campbell Graham. And as I said, I think that he is going to be one of the better centres in the competition. By the end of the year, I think that he is going to come back from injury really, really strong. He's been training outstandingly. All good signs coming out of training for Campbell Graham. So keen for him to have a big year. Number 3. Critter. I'm really excited about the Dogs this year. I think that they can be a top side in this competition again this year and get into the top 8. I think that his leadership is going to be a big part of that, but leadership doesn't make you the top 5 centre in the competition. Your talent and your X factor does. I think he's going to take his game to another level here and his work ethic as well. I think he's just going to increase and, obviously a second year with this full side playing together too for the Bulldogs. Really excited to see Critter and his leadership evolve throughout the year too, but more importantly, just his combinations improving with Jacob Kiraz on that right edge. I'm super excited for Stephen Crichton this season. I think that him, Sexy Sexton, obviously whoever the right back rower is, whether it be Preston, most likely Preston, or Salmon, who also played quite well in that right edge too, for the Bulldogs throughout last year. And then obviously Kiraz there on that right side. They built a beautiful little combination there. Very excited for it. So Stephen Crichton's definitely number 3 for me. His skill is just unmatched in some games. Number 2. Number 2 for me, I've got Lomax. I think that he backs up last year, obviously moving to a different position, which is interesting. But I think that, having him one more in field, maybe giving him a bit of a roaming license too while you're training up a young fullback in Isaiah Yongi, just letting Lomax do his thing. I think that he could be really dangerous. I think that he'd be a great fullback, to be honest. And obviously the plan is to play him at centre, but I think that he'd do really well at fullback. My sort of premonition for Lomax, or if I was Jason Rolls, I'd definitely be giving him a bit of a roaming license and a bit of a swaying license there to do his thing as well and have his say in attack. But even regardless, even if he didn't have that, I'm super excited for Lomax. Obviously, on the inside to a Sean Russell or a Bailey Simonson. I think Simonson's more of a left centre. Maybe even Adokar if they move Adokar over to the right side. No matter who his winger is, they're going to be scoring a lot of tries and obviously set up by the king there, Zach Lomax. And be really interesting to see if he can maintain that form and keep himself in the Origin arena, moving infield in that new position there at centre. And especially being outside a goal at Mitch Moses too. That excites me. It really does for the Parramatta Reels. Their side excites me. It could either go really well or really poorly, but I think it's going to go really well. And excited for Lomax to sort of get back into the swing of things and push the Parramatta Reels back into the top 8 after only just missing the spoon against the Tigers in that spoon bowl. Let's go to number 1. I think this one's pretty obvious. Herbie Farnworth. What a season last year. He is definitely not only the most skilled centre going into this year, but I think that he's pretty much locked in to be the best centre by the end of the year, no matter how the Dolphins go. I mean, it does sort of sway on how the Dolphins go, to be honest, and the development of Isaiah Katoa there in the 7, things like that. But Hot Boy Herbie looks like he's training on the right side with Jermaine Asako, which is really good to hear. That combination seemed to work very well going into the back end of the season. Didn't work so well at the start, but when they moved him back there by the end of the year, he was outstanding there. So Herbie Farnworth, I'm super excited to see how he goes. He's probably another guy I'd be giving a roaming license to be honest. Obviously, played a few games at fullback coming through the grade. When there were contract talks were apparent when he was still at Brisbane. There was actually a lot of conversation saying that he did want to be a fullback. So, keen to see how Herbie Farnworth goes this season. I think that he is definitely going to be an exciting watch this year. And if he can replicate last year's form, he definitely deserves to be number 1 on that list. And I don't think anyone's really arguing with the fact that Herbie Farnworth is not only the best centre going into this year, but will probably be the best centre by the end of the year as well. So my list is Herbie Farnworth to be the best centre of 2025. I've got Lomax at number 2. I've got Stephen Crichton at number 3. I've got Campbell Graham at number 4. And Bradman Best at number 5. Honourable mentions here. I've written them down this time because obviously in the last one for the wingers, spent a little bit too much time thinking about it. So we're going to be running through a little bit of a list here, a little bit more organised, which is nice to see. But our honourable mentions are Dane Gagai, for me, I think is definitely a watch for Newcastle. Again, Newcastle's not a side I have particularly going well in 2025, but I think that Dane Gagai, if he can replicate last year's form and Kalen Ponga can set him up for a few opportunities, he'll definitely be up there in that list as one of the top centres in the competition. And you could even argue that he was probably very close to being one of the top centres in the competition as well last season. Jack Whiten, can't even read my own handwriting, which is scary. Jack Whiten, I think, is definitely a watch for this year. Obviously, Cody Walker, the last time that he was under a coach like Wayne Bennett, he was playing some great football. So I'm really excited to see Cody Walker really unlock his football. And, Cody Walker unlocking his football means Latrell Mitchell unlocking his football, which means Jack Whiten and that left edge alongside Tyrone Munro, it looks like, for the start of the year to unlock their football as well. So really, really keen to see Jack Whiten and how he goes. He looks very, very fit and trim. He's looking really good. I saw him at Club Maddo the other day with Tallis Duncan. And obviously after having a new baby and everything, he was there having dinner with the family and obviously with Tallis Duncan and his partner. But yeah, look, he looks really trim, looks really fit. Huge bastard in real life too, just quietly. Definitely putting me through my paces there, even though I'm playing in the front row. It makes me look tiny. So, Jack Whiten, very, very keen to see how he goes this season. But I think that, Cody Walker unlocking his game and getting back to his best, I think that means that whole left edge is going to be on fire in 2025. Speaking of left centres, Will Penasini's a watch for me. Moving to left centre, most likely with with Zach Lomax playing on the right side. He's definitely going to be a watch this year. I think that, he's so skilled and talented, has so much ability. We saw that in the 2023 season. 2024 had a little bit of a dip. Didn't get much ball, as much ball as he would have liked. And, combinations defensively, things like that, really wasn't working for him. At some stages throughout the year as well. I think that he just needs to get back to his best. And I think that this Parramatta Reels side, a little bit of a premiership window is sort of starting to open here. I think Will Penasini is going to be a big part of that too. You got Lomax. You got, obviously, Isaiah Yongi at the back there at fullback, a real talented prodigy fullback. You got Moses and Brown. Brown obviously has by round 10 to negotiate where he wants to be in 2026. But, you've got a side full of stars. So it is a real year for Parramatta to take advantage of that and to skyrocket and get back into the 8. I think Penasini is going to be a big part of that. I think that he is one of the better centres at the club. He is one of the better centres at the club. Him and Lomax will obviously be the starters there. But he's one of the better outside backs on his day in the competition as well. So definitely going to be a watch moving over to the left side. I actually didn't mind him on the left either. And I think if he's partnered up with Addo-Carr, it's going to be a little cheeky combination too going into 2025. I think it's going to be very similar to the run that Addo-Carr and Sherry had for the Bulldogs for a little bit there. A real nice try-scoring left edge. Partner next to a good 5'8" again in Dylan Brown too. Really keen to see how Penasini goes. I think he's going to get a lot more ball and a lot more opportunity with Brown as he's 5'8" on that left side too, potentially with Addo-Carr as well. I'm going to run through these ones a little bit quicker now. Val Holmes is obviously up there. I think that defensively, if he fixes that up, he is one of the best centres in the competition. And, not a centre coming through, obviously fullback, winger, was his origin, put on a bit of size and played in the centres for the North Queensland Cowboys and killed it. Played Origin in the centres too for Queensland and played quite well, at least at the start for them. I think that Val Holmes, if he can fix up his defensive lapses that he had last year, he is definitely one of the better centres in the competition. And then two more smokies for me. Depending on how Brisbane go, Staggs is a watch. Cobbo's obviously a watch, but more so Staggs for me. It sounds like he's the favourite man there for Madge Maguire, depending on if they lose one of these guys. It sounds like Staggs is the one Madge would prefer to keep. So, yeah, it's going to be a big season for Stags. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. I think that he really needs to lift and have a consistent season this year. So he'll definitely be a watch. If he's playing at his best in that Brisbane outfit with two experienced halves in the building now, I am very excited for Brisbane. But more importantly, very excited for Stags and just to see how he goes there this year in the centres. Obviously, tough year recovering from the loss of Herbie Farnworth. I think that Stags is in for a big season. He's definitely going to be a watch. And then the last one for me, look, reports suggest he's going to be playing centre. So if he doesn't play centre, it's sort of a bit of shambles here from myself. But the report is that he's going to be playing centre. Gold Coast Titans, Jojo Fafita. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes this year. Massive season on the wing for the Gold Coast Titans last year. He's definitely going to be a watch. He's got so much talent. He is a guy that reeks Origin as well. We spoke about Xavier Savage in the last episode. Him and Jojo Fafita will be fighting for spots on the wings for Queensland, certainly for 2025. Both of these guys have so much potential. I'd probably even go as far as to say that Jojo Fafita has a little bit more potential than Xavier Savage, and I think has a little bit of a higher ceiling there. So he'll definitely be a watch for next year in the centres. Works on his ball playing a bit and can really, defend well at centre. He's going to be a fucking nightmare in attack too. So Jojo Fafita, definitely one for me that I'd be keeping an eye on for the honourable mentions. So Dane Gagai, Jack White and Will Penasini, Jojo Fafita, Tony Staggs and Valentine Holmes are my honourable mentions there. We've got 6 honourable mentions there as well after the top 5 centres. That's how hard this list was to put together. Let me know what you would change out of this list. Are any of these honourable mentions in your top 5 centres for 2025? Let us know in the comments section below, and we'll see you guys in the next one.